Next story.
nytimes.com. Polarized plugs have taken more lives than they saved, study shows. George Westinghouse.
3 to 4 minutes.
A groundbreaking study published by the Journal of Applied Safety Engineering this week has ignited a heated debate in the world of electrical engineering and public health. According to the study, polarized plugs, intended to prevent electrical shock by ensuring the hot wire remains behind the appliance switch, may have inadvertently contributed to more deaths than they have prevented. The culprit? An unexpected uptick in stress-induced cardiovascular incidents linked to frustration with misaligned plugs.
The study, conducted over 5 years, analyzed medical records and interviews across the United States and Canada. It found that the recurrent frustration associated with struggling to insert polarized plugs correctly contributed to increased blood pressure and long-term stress, particularly in older individuals or those already at risk for cardiovascular disease. In vulnerable populations, this prolonged exposure to stress reportedly led to heightened rates of heart attacks, strokes, and other stress-related health complications.
Lead researcher Dr. Miriam Nystrom explained the alarming implications. We were initially examining electrical shock prevention, but as we delved deeper, it became clear that another form of risk was emerging. People are more likely to experience frustration multiple times a week due to misalignment with polarized plugs than to encounter direct electrocution risk. In these frequent cases, the surge in stress hormones and the rise in blood pressure creates a perfect storm for cardiovascular distress.
The study has also raised awareness of the subtle, yet impactful, cognitive load that frequent plug adjustments can impose. It's more than just an annoyance, said Dr. Marnie Eldridge, a behavioral psychologist at the Centers for Zombie Control and Prevention. In an age where plug-and-play simplicity is prized, any deviation, no matter how minor, becomes a psychological irritant, one that is compounded when we fail to complete the task quickly. People with pre-existing hypertension or anxiety are particularly vulnerable to the health impacts of repeated frustration.
The research has a surprising corollary. We should be phasing out USB Type-A connectors immediately, continued Dr. Eldridge. These plugs produce all the frustration of polarized plugs, and offer none of the electrocution prevention. And people plug and unplug USB cables far more often than power cables.
As news of the findings circulated, opinions on the street were divided.
When I'm already rushing to get my morning coffee and that toaster plug won't go in, my heart is racing before I even touch caffeine, admitted Steve Harlow, 63, a retired teacher from Pittsburgh. At my age, I don't have time for that.
On the other hand, some remain skeptical of the study's conclusions. I grew up with polarized plugs and was never frustrated, said Martha DeLuca, 62, a retired electrician. People should stop fussing over a simple plug and learn to pay attention. If they're getting heart attacks, maybe it's not the plug's fault.
The National Electrical Manufacturers Association, NEMA, which has long championed polarized plugs as a safety measure, was quick to respond. Polarized plugs have drastically reduced the risk of fatal electric shocks in households, said NEMA spokesperson Frank Carlisle. However, maybe we should have left the plugs alone and emphasized that morons should just not stick a fork into the toaster.